Imagine finding someone who's not only living in your house, but also planning to perform surgery on you. There has been so many terrifying cases of frogging, and if you don't know what frogging is, it's the act of an intruder living inside your home. Lifetime is coming out with a series that is filled with cases of frogging, which I totally recommend that you guys watch, but I want to start with a frogging case that gives me the absolute chills. This is called The Secret Surgeon. So this newlywed couple, James and Brittany Campbell, decided to move with their 2 kids to Honolulu, Hawaii after getting married in Vegas. They moved to the suburbs together and are thrilled to be starting their new lives. It's super important to note that above the bathroom at their new house, there was a crawl space attic. Well, June of 2019 is when it all began. Brittany liked to watch makeup tutorials on YouTube as she would get ready and do her makeup and hair in the morning. And while she was doing this one day, she heard the front door slam just out of nowhere. And all throughout that evening, she continued to hear the door open and close. She had asked James if he had locked the door, and he had said yes, but she still made him go downstairs and check, and he found the door unlocked. This caused a bit of an argument between the newlyweds, and she found herself starting to get more and more obsessive about checking the locks and making sure everything was safe at night. She said that she felt like she was going crazy, and James was pretty dismissive about the whole thing. Oh, James. But Brittany was fixated on this. Well, eventually one day while James was playing the piano at the house, he sees a shadow of a person walk past him. But James was like, maybe this is just someone being nosy outside. Well, a few days later, James was at home with the kids, and he noticed that there was a strange message for him left on his desktop calendar, which stated, "Do as I did, choose a home, clean it, set up all devices." This story gets way scarier. Go to the next part. Okay, so back to one of the creepiest stories about frogging I have ever heard of. So James saw this really strange rehabilitation message on his calendar, but he thought it was just a strange way that Brittany was trying to tell him that he needed to tidy up. Well, 3 weeks later, James was finally convinced. They were all going to the movies as a family, and there was one particular blanket that they liked to use to snuggle up to watch movies, and none of them could find it. They searched the house up and down. It was usually on the couch. The kids were helping. No one could find it. And the second that they returned home from that movie, they found that blanket folded up perfectly, sitting on the couch. And that's when James knew something was wrong. Brittany was like, finally, she was feeling validated. And soon after that, in the middle of the night, Brittany noticed that her webcam was on, and she thought that that was strange, but she just got up and turned it off. So in September of 2019, they decided to go back and visit their family on the mainland. And they decided to take an earlier than planned flight home. And when they pulled up back to the house, they noticed that James's road bike was sitting in the driveway, and he was like, I didn't leave that out there. So they knew something was totally off, and the second that they opened their garage door, they noticed that everything was trashed. James was scared for his family's safety, so he went ahead and grabbed a sledgehammer and headed to the front door of the house. James tried to open his front door, but was met with some resistance. And then after providing a little bit of extra force with opening the door, he was met eye to eye with a man inside of his home. And this man was, no joke, plotting their surgery. If you guys want to hear more about this story, tune into Frogging, Hider in My House on Lifetime on June 18th, 10, 9 Central. This is the last part to the secret surgeon, who was living in a family's home without them knowing. James is eventually able to pull the intruder onto his front lawn. He notices that he's wearing his clothes, and the intruder is very calm but trying to explain that this is his house. James is just trying to rationalize this. Maybe he's homeless, maybe he's on drugs. He's trying to call the police without causing a huge scene and just keep the man calm. Well, Brittany immediately runs into the home to go check on the cat. And on her way in, the man yells at her saying, "Don't worry, I've been taking care of your cat." And when she walks inside the house, she notices that all of her husband's instruments are out and everything looks like it's been taken inventory of. The cat was in a crate, it had no water, and it looked like he had been trying to feed the cat dried apricots. And a weird thing is that he kept the boys' room very pristine. That was the only clean room in the house. And their bedroom had a set of knives laid out on a towel. The weirdest part was that there was an old computer that they didn't use anymore set out on the bed. And on it was a medical manifesto written by the intruder called The Omnivore Trials of Rehabilitation for Rat-Like People. And the journal itself had very intimate details about each family member. This is whenever they knew that he had in fact been stalking them for quite a while in their home. Looking at the journal and his prior search histories on the laptop, he had a whole outline on what he was going to do, how he was going to drug the family members. He had a serum sitting in the kitchen that was labeled to use on the omnivores. He referred to the family as being subhuman or a different species. Some of his Google searches included where to buy medical tables, how to perform surgeries at home, videos on how to surgically remove an arm. And he had left Brittany his own makeup tutorial on her laptop. That was why her webcam was on. He was arrested, put in jail, but then was granted supervised release. He then burglarized a Buddhist temple and was sent back to jail. He ended up killing his cellmate. I mean, this case is just way too much of a close call for me, and there are so many other terrifying cases of frogging.
time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. This wasn't no average killing spree. Dude had a whole rifle. He was going into people's backyard, jumping fences, literally trying to break into people's homes. Just get ready for the story time. So I don't exactly remember when this happened. It happened a few years ago when I was still in high school because I just graduated this year, and I know that another one of my friends that went to that school and lives in this same neighborhood saw him in their backyard. So this guy was literally our next door neighbor. I've lived in the same neighborhood since 4th grade, and he was here when we moved here. Him and my dad honestly had a really good bond. If one of them needed a lawnmower, they would let them borrow it. And I was even in band at one point, and I was selling butter braids because they do it for a fundraiser. And he bought several of my butter braids. I got hella changed. I genuinely thought this man was kind-hearted until this night. I was chilling in my room, and all of a sudden, I see a light flashing through my window. Obviously, I go to check it out, and it's police. Several police. One of them waves their hand like this, trying to get me to close the blind. So I do and go tell my family what I just saw. And we hear a knock on the door. Thinking it's police, we go to open the door. And it's our crazy neighbor with a rifle. He tells us that he saw a rifle at his feet. At this point, I'm thinking, child, I know this man did not just knock on our door to hide a gun. Then we could open the door and he could shoot us, right? Oh, hell no, it's time to evacuate. I actually called the police instead. But while one of my family members was on the phone with the dispatcher, we heard another knock on the door. This time it followed up with them announcing that they were the police. The police officer was shaking. He said we needed to evacuate immediately because our crazy neighbor was in our backyard trying to break in. Part 3 of the time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. The police knock on our door and tell us that we have to evacuate because our crazy neighbor is now in our backyard trying to break into our house. So this means that he was still on our property after we closed the door on him. He literally went to our backyard after we slammed the door in his face and was trying to figure out a way to get in through the back. Who the fuck do you expect to let you in their house if you have a rifle? Understand that he was trying to hide it, but he was not doing a very good job. Okay, so we frantically start packing. We hear yelling outside, we hear dogs barking. The police basically had him cornered in our backyard. So we had to get out of there as quickly and safely as possible. So we have police surrounding our house. We all finish packing and go inside our garage so we can get out from there because it's safer. There were literal police cars following us all the way to the hotel. Once we got into the hotel, they told us that they were going to call us when we were good to go back home. We only stayed at that hotel for one night. And once they called us the next morning to tell us that we were good to go back home, my dad asks them exactly what happened. Apparently that night there was 2 boys across the street playing basketball. It was really late at night and he was extremely tired and he had work the next day. He kindly came out and asked the boys to be quiet. They kept being loud. It only went downhill from there.
Don't open your eyes. On the last day of every month, close the blinds or curtains before you sleep. If in the middle of the night you hear a tapping noise at your window, don't open your eyes. If you're one of the unlucky ones, you'll hear the pebble sound at your window. It's not a friend, just keep your eyes shut. The sound will get louder, the tapping will get faster and faster. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you. Don't move. It'll lose its patience, it'll start thumping the window. Your window will shake and shudder and the noises will only get louder. It will furiously pound the window and shake the panes. Don't worry, the window won't break, but for goodness sake, don't open your eyes. No matter how scared you are, no matter how badly you want to scream, pretend you don't hear, pretend you're still asleep. After a while, the noises will stop. Don't fall for it, keep your eyes shut. Try to sleep if you can. Don't get up, don't open your eyes until the sun comes up. Those who do open their eyes, well, no one really knows what happens.
I was once working at a fast food restaurant. Working there stopped me from eating from this place ever again. It's everyone's favorite spot to get burgers and fries, and it seems like no matter what people tell you, people still continue to eat because how cheap it is. But let's start with the customers. Always be nice to your servers, because I had a couple of coworkers that would take the burger meat, rub it onto the floor, and serve it to the customers that came off rude. The restaurant had mice, and if they found something, they got to it. There was a particular day where I accidentally left out the burger buns, and the mice, of course, got to them. On my way to toss them into the trash, my manager stops me and says, "We're low on stock for the burger buns. We need to keep those." And they were served to multiple families. There's way more dangerous things that went down, but if you guys want me to disclose everyone's favorite restaurant, let me know down below if I should make a part. Part 2 of the most disgusting fast food restaurant I've ever worked for. And here's a couple of things I think you should know. The hiring process is super easy. You literally just gotta be 16. Okay, so back to the food. When it came to preparing food, the guys in the back that would prepare the food would never change their gloves. They would go from touching doors, cleaning things, to back to preparing food again. I'm pretty sure most of the food they made was contaminated. Our manager was the worst. She loved the food they had and sometimes would pick up a batch of fries with her bare hands and would just eat as she worked. Half the time when she got done with counting money, she wouldn't wash her hands neither. And y'all know how dirty money is. Now exposing the restaurant. I said if you guys comment down below, I might just tell you guys what fast food restaurant it was. But if this TikTok blows up, I do not want to get sued. Just know they make burger, fries, and they're the most popular fast food restaurant in the world.
Okay, so story time. So let's start from the beginning. I have two brothers. We'll call the oldest one Mark and the youngest one Robert. So my brother Mark moved to New York for college, so once in a while we go and visit him. My parents decided before my summer break ended to go and visit Mark for like a little vacation, because why not? So my parents are the type of people who like to get to airports hours before our flight. So we get there, go through security and buy some snacks. The lines were long, so it took up some time. We headed in our area and we looked through the windows and it was thundering and raining really hard. A few minutes later, the speakers come on and they say our flight is delayed. So we're like, okay, whatever, we'll just wait, because what else are we gonna do? So around 2 hours pass, my dad goes up to the front desk where our gate is and asked if our plane was ready. He said no, so we waited a little bit longer. Then my dad asked again and they said no again. And this happened for like 4 more times. So finally they said, yes, we're literally waiting for you guys. You're delaying the plane. Like, huh? Like for part 2. Part 2. We grabbed all our stuff, ran to the gate, went through, and went on the plane. Once we got on the plane, everyone was so mad. Before we even stepped foot on the plane, everyone was yelling at us, booing us, saying it's our fault they're late to whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's our fault the plane is delayed. There was even this one point where a lady started clapping, saying, finally, you guys made us wait long enough. My parents got mad and kind of started yelling back because she was being rude to the point where we all almost got kicked out. But luckily we didn't. But it literally wasn't our fault. The person in the front desk wasn't telling us anything till the last minute. But anyways, we put everything away. We sat in our seats. My mom was a little embarrassed, but I just didn't care. And neither did my dad.